Hi and welcome to Fabric Bias. It is the end of January 2025 and I am working on another project here. So I'm planning on making a bag. The pattern's from Christine's Home Affairs and I'm actually going to make two. She sewed it in two different ways and so I want to try both because if this works out and it's quick enough, I might sew these to give for a fundraiser. So I want to see both methods because one method was definitely quicker than the other. And I also want to make a bag for my friend who I just sewed a whole bunch of bags for. I'll put a link to that video. Those videos, actually, there's two up above and below, hopefully. And she has a granddaughter. I made a bag for her and she also has, that granddaughter has a brother. And so I'm hoping this fabric would be a good choice for him. And I might just give them both the two. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that second one yet. So what I wanted to show you was I actually had, this was a piece of scrap that I bought from Joann's. And I've washed it and I've trimmed it even. And so it's ready to go. I'm going to make my bags based on this piece of fabric. And then this fabric was also a scrap that I got from Joann's. And let me see. I don't have the tab anymore for it, but I've cut it to match this one. So I've got my fabric prepped and ready to go. This is going to determine the size of the two bags. So right now it is folded in half. It's about 21.5 inches, so 43 inches. But I want to make fabric loops, which I like to do in my bags. I haven't figured out how I'm going to add that to this project yet, but I kind of have an idea in my mind. Once I start sewing, I'll know better. So I'm actually going to go to this 20 mark and make two cuts that are 10-inch wide. So I'll have my body, two body pieces 10-inch wide, two body pieces 10-inch wide, and then two lining pieces 10-inch wide, two lining pieces 10-inch wide. So I'll have my 4 pieces I need for my bag, and then on this side I'll cut that off and I'll make my fabric loops out of that. So that's kind of how I've decided on my sizing here, because there's nothing, that in this pattern that restricts me to a certain size, except my zipper, which before I do any cutting at this point, I'm not going to use as long a zipper as she did. I'm hoping that'll work out with flipping the bag around. We'll see, but I'm going to go make sure I have zippers long enough to go with this bag. So I think I'm going to try they're going to end up 10 inches wide. I think I'm going to try to see if I can go as small as a 12-inch zipper. Or maybe 14. Let me see what I've got. So that's what I'm going to do next. Anyway, I wanted to show you how I was going to start this project and how I was deciding on the dimensions of the project. So there it is. I'll be back in a flash. Okay, so here it is all cut out. Thankfully, before I started cutting, I remembered that I needed to have 2-inch cuts for the ends of my zippers. So I ended up starting off by cutting off that 2-inch strip, which I then cut 2 of them down. Oh, well, first I cut off what I needed for sure was the tabs for the end of my zippers. And then I cut off from 2 of the pieces, I cut off pieces to make my fabric loops, which I still haven't figured out how I'm going to put in there, and I may or may not put those in on that. But what I do know is when I sew them together, I want the ends to be finished. So I'm going to sew them so that I don't have any raw edges on them, just in case, because I'm not sure where I'm going to fit them in, and they might end up exposed. So I want to make sure that they are finished. So my pieces ended up being, should have measured them ahead of time. So about 14.5 inches tall and 9.5 inches wide, because again, I had to cut off that 2 inches. Did not have to make them the same size. I opted to do that just so it would be easy. If they were different sizes, because I'm using the same material, I would just keep them clipped together in sets, which I'll probably still do, just to make sure I didn't accidentally put the wrong lining in the wrong bag. I didn't have that many 12-inch zippers, surprisingly, so I opted to go with 14, which is the next size up, and that's pretty generous because you can see it goes across here. And maybe you can't see. Let me try the black one. Here, you can see it's gonna extend on either side, or on both sides of that. So that's going to give it plenty of room. Of course, I'm going to be cutting off the metal stoppers on each end and putting the zipper tabs at the end. So that's going to make it no, it's not going to make it any longer, but it might make it a little bit shorter, because it should kind of end up coming to somewhere around about here and here. That's where I'm at right now. This is right now my scraps. I'm going to set those aside. and get going on this. Oh, I did also opt. She was using a heavier weight fabric. This is just quilt cotton here. If I decide that I want to sew these as a fundraiser, I want to minimize the costs, and interfacing does add to the cost. So I'm going to try to make these without interfacing. All right, back in a flash. Hi, okay, so before I get going too far along, I do want to show you, this is a part that isn't in Christine's video because she doesn't add a fabric loop. I honestly don't know if I'll be able to add a fabric loop to this one, but I'm going to try. And the way I'm going to do that is I already have them two partially prepped, so I'm going to show you on this scrap. I'm going to make my fabric loop, and I just do that by folding it in half. Same way you do a strap, fold in half, open it up, fold in those raw edges to that fold, and then there we go, fold in half again on that, and of course pressing along the way. This is a short piece of fabric, so I'm going to get away with just finger pressing it right now. In order to finish the ends off here, what I'm going to do is take this, open it back up, flip it over, and then fold it again back the opposite way. So I have my mountain folds here now, and then on this side you can see my raw edges are here. And then I'm going to carefully make sure that this is lined up on the end, stitch here. My dog's looking for attention, sorry. I don't know if you can hear him whining. Stitch here. Okay, once I have that sewn, I have it looks like this. So there's my mountains, and there's my raw edges. My sewn edges, all I do is take from this side, I'm going to just push my ends in and push it around and neaten it back up again. Then you need to just make sure you push out those corners so it's flat, like that. And then stitch down each of the sides. So this way, because I don't know where they're going to go in, I know that if wherever I stick them, the edges, if they happen to be, well, wherever they end up, my ends won't be raw. It gives me a little more flexibility. If I decide that I can find a way to put it in the seam, because I want it to go into the inside of the bag, not the outside. If it was going to the outside, it would be easier, but it's going to go on the inside. If I'm going to find a way to put it in the seams, I can just either cut it off or just leave it as is. If it's too bulky, I'm going to cut it off. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and clean those up a bit and get those sewn and get going on this project to see where I can actually add that and see how I can make this turn out, especially because I'm not using that interfacing. I'm a little bit concerned with that, and see how it's going to come out. And check it out. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. This is such a great design. So I did both of the bags a little bit different. I did go a little short on this side with the zipper. I would have gone a little bit longer. And my zippers are opposite. But so let me show you first the added tab that I did. So on this one, you can see that it does stick out on this side. Not great, but it is kind of hidden. Nobody's looking there. And the ends are finished because of the steps I took before. And it actually is, when you open up the bag, right here in the center of that pocket. So this is a 3-pocket zipper pouch. It has a pocket here, and a pocket here. And on this one, what I opted to do was I sewed it into the seam. You'll see it's a bit bulky right here. I sewed it into the seam before putting this side together, and then I just folded it inward when I sewed up the sides. And so it's over here on this side a little bit shorter, because I did have to cut it off a little bit because it's too bulky with those sewn ends on it. So I did get my loops in here, and here's the inside of this one. And I did choose to try both different methods that she shows on her videos. You got to go back and watch her videos. She makes great videos. So this one is sewn on where I just leaned it onto the zipper tape and sewed across it, whereas this one is sewn where it's sewn across and then folded back over and then top stitched on it. What I would say is I think either way would work. I like both. I think I like both. I probably, if I were doing a whole bunch of them, I would definitely go this route where you just lay it on and do the one single stitching. On this one, what happens is, because I didn't use the same color tape, and you're sewing it on and then flipping it over and sewing it again and top stitching, you do see that. So what I did on this side to hide it was I took a Sharpie and I colored my thread in, and it's not coming off, so it should be okay. It may not last in the wash, but that's okay. I'm gonna start. So yeah, so there's that. So that's another reason. Well, on this one, you wouldn't see that double line of stitching because there's only a single row of stitching on that one. Now I do like that. I feel like this is a bit stronger because on this one, you lose one set of stitching, starts to come undone. You have another set of stitching on that one, whereas this one only has one set of stitching. But how often does that happen, right? So there is that, and you can see the inside. Plus, I was sewing with white thread, and you can't see it. So there is that as well. If you did this, then you probably want to match your thread to your zipper and the exterior. So you have to figure that one out. I could have done white on top, black on bottom. That would have made it a little less noticeable, I think, on that. So, okay. So there they are. Super excited by them. What a great pattern. Oh, and I didn't use any interfacing. And it actually has a good feel to it. I don't think I need the interfacing. I mean, you definitely would get a little more bulk to it, but it doesn't need the interfacing, in my opinion. So you might have a different opinion. When you get into the inside and you feel it, it is definitely a lot floppier. But the bag itself with this many layers, it's pretty nice. So there they are. I hope you like them. I hope that wherever and whenever you're at, you're having a great time. And thanks for watching.